Story time. The title of this story is The Most Important Conversation of My Life. Hi, my name is Chand. I'm a board certified internal medicine physician, so that I get you all's attention. No, but I really am. and I have worked in, just to give you a heads up, I've worked in all kinds of clinical settings, ICUs, like the floor, to clinics, also like street medicine, protest medicine, jail support, free medical camps, free telemedicine, a bunch of stuff, right? So all over the spectrum, I would say, from the internal medicine side. And then life happens, and also have lived experience with severe chronic illness and recovery and continuing to learn. And so then I learned energy medicine, herbalism, and Chinese medicine, ancient wisdom, like yoga, pranayama, and etc. And then I'm trying to put all these together and help myself, but also actually share and help people. Yeah. So, anyways, this is an attempt to share my story and stories associated with mine, so that I don't know. I feel like it's towards individual liberation, but collective liberation also. Anyways, long story short, let's get back to the story. So this is the story of somebody that I spoke to a while ago, and it was supposed to be a very simple appointment where I was just supposed to refill their medications, and we're seeing 20 plus patients a day. It's just in and out, 5-10 minutes max. Let's move on. There's really no human interaction. It's kind of it's a business, right? Like healthcare is a business, and I have to push pills to pay the bills. But anyway, so this was supposed to be pretty easy. You just come in, hey doc, I need this medication. I go over some stuff, and we're like, sure, everything looks good. Talk to you later, right? But for this person, I was just able to kind of feel something in their voice, and things went in a certain direction. And I just asked them, I was like, hey, how is, I see you have anxiety. How's your anxiety going? And they paused. And that pause, I could, I just, rather than moving on, I paused too, which really we're not really trained or supposed to do that, because you're just supposed to move on, next patient, right? I gotta make sure the CEOs get their private jets, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I paused. I'm glad I did. And what ended up happening was, she shared that this person, they shared that they have that they've had anxiety their whole life. And I just sort of validated and empathized with them, and told them that, hey, I don't know if it's going to make you feel better, but I've had anxiety my whole life, and I feel you. I hope you feel better, right? And then the conversation went on. Long story short, we ended up talking for 25 minutes, which obviously, puts me back. Now I have to see multiple people. I'm going to stay late and all this kind of stuff. But I'm glad it happened, because they asked me a question. They're like, oh, doc, you had anxiety too, so you know how it is. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do. So I have pretty debilitating anxiety. It's terrible. And I'm younger than you, and I just feel for you, and I hope you feel better. And they were like, well, doc, do you mind sharing what worked for you? And mind you, I was telling them, I was like, listen, this is not what we're supposed to be talking about, but if we're asking on a personal basis, I can tell you, I would suggest you talk to your, psychiatrist. And I have to say all this kind of shit, right? They're like, no, I get it, dog, but I just want to hear a story. And I told them, I shared. I was like, hey, listen, this is what I sort of told them. I told them that I don't know what you've been doing about the anxiety, but for a long time, I was working really hard to make it go away. I was doing a lot of breath work, meditation, for a long time, so that I just want this to go away. And so because you're activated and you do all of this stuff, you cold water, so that you make it go away. Right? And I realized it wasn't going away. And then I heard from other people online, and in healing communities, and because again, what I had was long COVID, and anxiety was, there was a part of it Long COVID is not psychological, all right? Just to be very few illnesses are, but I knew that this was. Anyways, this has been with me for many years, right? And I basically told them, I was like, I realized that trying to make it go away wasn't working. And then somebody had I'd read somewhere that what ends up happening with a lot of times with anxiety is that you develop the anxiety of anxiety, right? So now you have a panic attack and you're scared, fucking scared, man, and you don't want this to happen again. So now you're scared of you have that. So you're the anxiety of anxiety or the fear of fear. And then now the nervous system or the mind, body, soul is sort of stuck in that loop where it's constantly, scared of having another panic attack. And I was like, it finally, I came across something which told me, and for me it was somatics, was that yeah, whenever this is happening again, and this has happened to me, I had a very bad panic attack, and I shared the story. I was like, this was the last time that I had a panic attack. And if you've had one, you feel like you're gonna die. Now you're not gonna die, right? But you feel like you are, and it's terrible, and it can continue for hours, right? Sometimes for a long time. People end up in the ER. It's not a joke. And I was like, when this happened to me the last time, at that time I had been reading, learning, preparing, and I grounded myself a little bit, a lot of breath work, and got into my body, and I told myself, I'm not going to make it go away, I'm going to let it come. It's kind of like you ride the wave, and I let it come. I breathed into my chest, I breathed into the sensations wherever it was, and it came. And it came, and my body was shaking, my heart was beating, and then it went away. And it didn't come back. And so when I asked, and I shared something like this, and they were like, I asked them, and they were like, oh, they basically mentioned something like, I feel like I've had this my whole life, and I feel like what you're saying makes sense to me, and I have had an inclination, like in their gut, this person sort of had, some part of them were like, yeah, whatever I've been doing isn't working, whatever I've been told isn't working, the meds haven't been working, right? They don't for a lot of people, they do for a lot of people, please take your meds, you know what I mean? But they had this little gut instinct, and I was like, listen, if this makes sense to you, look into it, right? If it doesn't, you don't have to listen to me, right? They're like, no, doc, I think what you're saying is making sense. And then this person said that this might be the most important conversation of my life. And there was a pause, and after that, they cried a little bit. So did I. And they were saying thank you, and I said, no, thank you. I really hope that this helps. Anyways, I wanted to share that because it left an impact on me. I know it left an impact, and this is an exchange. It's like we heal by healing. You know what I mean? This person healed me also because they showed me a couple of things. Number one was that you can go through your entire life, decades of your life. This person was, much older, a little bit older, much older than I was. You could have gone through your whole life without being exposed to something different, and the people are working real hard. If you have anxiety, if you have any other chronic issues, you're just working real hard, and sometimes you're just putting a lot of effort, but just not in the right direction. And it's not because it's your fault, it's just because people don't know any better. I didn't know any better. And I could see that they got this glimmer of hope. They got a little something in them moved, and I could feel that, and they shared that. And that moved me to, and it showed me a couple of things. Sharing our story is important. That's what it told me. I was like, I gotta share my story, right? I gotta share my story with people, one-on-one, as a doctor also, because that's helps me connect with people. It helps make things real. And again, I've shared this with a lot of patients, where a lot of my patients have alcohol addiction, alcoholism. I was an alcoholic. Anyways, it's like sharing your lived experience as a healer or as a doctor has a profound impact. It encouraged me to do that. This interaction did. It also told me how important it is to talk about newer ways, or I shouldn't say newer ways, but different ways of helping things rather than just moving along. And it's also allowed me to follow my gut instinct of not just cutting off this conversation, but actually spending that extra time, right? It also told me that I can't continue to work in the system because you can't do this kind of stuff. And this is what I want to do. This is what fulfills me. This is what we need. Uh, Anyways, there was a few lessons which came out of this. I will put in a caveat there that this is one approach. It's called the DARE approach, in which you sort of ride this wave. You let it come on. Now, I'm not going to talk about this approach because it takes a longer episode. Feel free to go look it up. This is one of the many such approaches, but the general idea being that with chronic symptoms, with chronic issues, rather than us always trying to suppress them, and sometimes you do need to suppress them if they get really, really severe, right? But if you're able to get to a point where your actually body's able to handle these symptoms, then you let them come. And in my case, in one of my last panic attacks, when I went in the symptom rather than trying to make it, when I let it come take over me, it left me a message. And at that point, I was afraid of dying. I still am to a certain degree. I was afraid of dying here in America. And I thought I was going to die again. I thought I was going to get sick again and all that kind of stuff. I just started recovering. But the message which came to me, and this was kind of like a voice which came to me, that no, you're not scared of dying. You're scared of not being able to see your family before you die. So you need to go see your family. You need to take the risk, take a flight, go back home. And I did that through debilitating anxiety from a lot of things and physical issues. But it moved me. It told me what my heart wanted me to do, take the next step. And that was, and that again, that's a little different story. Helped me in my journey at that point. So symptoms are messengers. If you're able to get to a point of listening to them, allowing them to come, sometimes even if they're not messengers, they're just a white tiger, like as people say it, right? Let it come take over you and let it wash away. Remember, it's like a wave, it's like a storm. Even if the storm comes, it's like, I think Manyo Rinpoche said this in one of the videos, that you see the sky, you see a storm coming, the storm is like fear or anger or anxiety, but when the storm goes away, the sky is always there, so you're always there. This is temporary. And rather than trying to make it go away, if we allow it to come, it'll go away on its own. Might sound a little simplistic, but there's a lot of nuance to this, and there is a method to the madness, so to say. And anyways, I just wanted to share that story. I thought it was cool. It really moved me. It moved me to start sharing more of my own story and what I have learned. So I'm going to try and do that. Anyways, take care. I'll put in the links in the bio. This is not medical advice. I'm going to say that 100 times. All the best in your journeys.